Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. We are your go-to source for all things related to culture and innovation in the manufacturing world. Make sure you check out our website, manufacturingculturepodcast.com, to catch up on past episodes. Check out what's cooking in our cultural kitchen, if you will. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to help you stay in the loop. I'm your host, Jim Mayer, and I'm recording today at WIMTS 2023, which is an event that if you haven't been to, you don't want to miss in the future. So before we dive into today's exciting episode, let's give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Baroni. They're the masters of tool measurement and management. Thanks to their support, we can keep these conversations rolling on how to make the manufacturing workplace more awesome for everybody involved. All right, folks, fasten your seatbelts because our next guest is an absolute powerhouse in HR and data-driven decision-making. With a toolkit filled with recruitment strategies, labor efficiency hacks, and turnover reduction techniques, this guy is basically the Swiss Army knife of HR. Meet Mike White, the data dynamo. Mike comes to us with a whopping 15 plus years of experience in HR, holding a master's degree from the prestigious University of Illinois School of Labor and Employment Relations. He's held various leadership roles at industry giants like Caterpillar, Masterlock, Johns Manville, and even at Fairlife Milk. Yep, Mike's expertise is as diverse as it is deep. But that's not all. Mike founded Secchi. That's pronounced Secchi, an employee engagement software company that's making waves. Secchi aims to champion positive employee performance management, streamline administrative tasks, and skyrocket productivity. With Secchi, Mike is literally breaking down barriers and building bridges to a better bottom line. So gear up for a thrilling conversation on how data-driven decisions can unlock the true potential of your workforce and make your company culture sing. Let's get this party started. Mike White, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Great intro. I'm going to use a lot of that for my marketing later.
You got it. You got it, man. I'll copy and paste it out of my show notes and give it right over to you. So, Mike, you've been all over the place. Yeah. You've now at WIMTS after our quick conversation at FabTech, right?
Yeah.
About how the show is going to go. And I think, well, yesterday was a little shaky. Today's been a good day. A lot of great conversations.
Right.
But I want to hear about Secchi. Tell us about Secchi. What is Secchi other than what I shared in the intro? What is it? What do you guys do? What are you aiming to accomplish?
Yeah. So, Secchi, remember when we went on road trips before we had MapQuest and before we had cell phones and even the Garmin's?
Yeah.
So you used to have somebody there that would give you the guidance, and you'd have a navigator to go on a road trip.
Yep.
So right now in manufacturing, most are frontline supervisors. They need that navigator next to them. So they're the best forklift driver, best operator, best skilled trades guy. And you say, hey, you're good, you're respected, and you could show up every day.
Yep.
You want to be a supervisor? And they go, does it pay more? Yeah, I'll be a supervisor. And then we put them in that role, and we try to ask them to navigate the United States without a map.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so I've spent the last 15 years, maybe year 12, I figured this out, is I've done training after training with frontline leadership.
Yep.
And I go, those frontline leaders, they're just not good. Why aren't they figuring this out?
Yeah.
I've trained them. And I realized not the people to process.
Yeah.
And then I went looking for tools.
Cool.
And I said, how do I find the right tool to give them that navigation? So what Secchi does, and what I ended up not finding when I had to create this tool, what Secchi does is it gives you turn-by-turn directions as a frontline leader.
Okay.
So similar to a GPS, I once, when I was 16 years old, ended up in going west instead of east, and I was 40 minutes from home before cell phones. I had to stop at the exit, and it's a big I had to stop the exit, make a phone call to home, and say, I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
We give you that where are you at. So now that even the 16-year-old driver can get from one place to the other without any experience. So we bring up those new average supervisors to be pretty darn good supervisors. And then those great supervisors, we make their job easier. We take away all the extra paperwork and all the political BS and all the stuff you got to deal with when you're a frontline leader trying to learn that, trying to navigate that world.
Yeah.
And when you navigate at the core of this concept is, I can't find a study on it, but at the core of this is, I just believe that great people can't stand working next to bad people.
Yeah.
And we in manufacturing, we in supply chain, distribution, we differentiate our managers, but how do you differentiate the forklift drivers? How do you differentiate the welders?
Right.
And right now we do it by gut feel.
Right.
And so we make it very, very easy to get data, behavioral data with people, and just fix that great employees and those bad employees. Great employees will work next to average employees, but they can't work next to somebody that's nodding off, that's taking long breaks. You will lose your best people if you don't take care of the bad ones. And then on the other side of that is we reinforce positive employee relations with the software, make sure that when the recognition is given, it can be seen by the entire organization.
I love it. Well, and let's be honest, man. Nobody, and I mean nobody, other than a few of us sociopaths, enjoy, or even like performance review processes, right?
Gosh,
I love them. I loved getting them as an employee. I loved giving them as a manager and a leader, but I'm the exception, not the rule.
You are the exception.
So what I really loved about the demo I saw of Secchi was how easy it makes that performance review process, right? Because you're capturing data all year long from these managers who are inputting it in, which is usually the biggest issue in performance reviews.
Yes.
Nobody remembers what happens tomorrow, right?
Right. Don't do anything good in the first quarter because nobody cares in the fourth quarter when you get that review.
Exactly.
And we take away that we help get rid of that recency bias. Yeah. And then writing performance reviews. A little story. When I was 23, I'm out of school. I learned my master's degree doesn't matter in a factory, and it shouldn't. And I made this nice, pretty review process. A guy named, I won't say his full name, but John R. If you're out there, I'm going to send this to you afterwards because he gawked me so hard. So I present to the supervisors, I want you to do this review process.
Yeah.
And they immediately roasted me for about a 30-minute meeting in that, Mike, how much time is this going to take us? You're asking me to sit down with 40, 45 people. I got to prep and fill out this form. I got to bring them off the floor. I got to sit in my office. This is 80 hours of work, and I still have to do my job in the meantime.
Right.
And so, in reality, what happens is that the conversations don't really happen.
Yeah.
And I figured out a way to make it easy. If I can do it at a click of a button, year end we'll have AI written performance reviews where the supervisor becomes the editor, not the creator.
Yeah.
And that's another big concept with Secchi.
Yeah.
Is we create such clarity in the workforce. We want to create clarity so you know who your best people are as a leader, and you know who the worst ones are.
Yep.
And that performance review process is really important. But when you give a bunch of people a blank screen, it is a giant challenge. But if I give you an AI written outline, it's not so bad.
Absolutely. So you're asking these frontline leaders to then just edit what AI is taking based on the data that they've already put in.
They've already put in the recognition. Hey, good job today. You stayed over, cleaned up. I got a good one is, and one of our customers, a guy found 2 missing pallets, which, if you're a supplier out there, you can't miss it. 2 missing pallets is unacceptable. So this guy, entry-level dude, found the pallets.
Yep.
Contacted the supervisor, got with IT himself, communicated it with all the appropriate parties. So did this bunch of coordination, and he's only been there a few months.
Yeah.
And I don't know him personally, but I'm able to visually see it. So I met with the CEO, giving him an update on their progress with Secchi. And I said, when are you going down to Fort Worth next? He said 2 weeks. I go shake Billy's hand. That guy is a rock star.
All right.
And I can see he's been recognized by all the different supervisors, not just one. So that favoritism issue becomes a non-issue if I have the right data.
That's awesome. I love it. So, Mike, what was your journey to get to this point where you were able to found Secchi? I mean, it's not everybody who wakes up one morning and says, I'm going to start a software company, right? So what led you to this point?
Shoot. So although I played sports in high school, I'm proudly part of the Muhammad Seymour Web Club. So I learned a little bit of programming.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. And so I learned basic programming. What over my career, I'm not an expert in programming at all. I'm not an expert in Tableau and BI.
Sure.
But what I figured out is I can communicate to the IT folks, and I became the bridge. I just magically fell into this role where, hey, Kat, we wanted to get this turnover dashboard. Well, we calculate this way, that way. It's a bunch of confusion.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to take the HR side of it, communicate to the IT folks or the programmer folks, because I know just enough on that basis. And then I became a translator. And so by translating the analytics into HR, that works. And then you translate the process. I start to speak in manufacturing, not HR.
Yep. You
process map out how to do 7 tests of just cause of discipline, which only your HR Norks on his phone know, on his call know what that is. Well, I put it in a process map. And so I became a translator of things from HR to ops, things from HR to analytics and IT. That's where this software company came from. And
Got it.
I geeked out on some Tableau. I geeked out on Power BI. I regularly talk to those folks and say, in the HR world, just by knowing math, I'm in the 50th percentile with the analytics.
Okay.
There's a lot of HR people are really, really relational.
Yep.
Then you go, okay, now I know how to do a few BI dashboards, Tableau dashboards. Now I'm like in the top 5% in the HR world.
Got it.
But if I go to if this were an analytics conference, I wouldn't get the internet. So for an entry level job, but that made a big difference. And then figuring out as an HR business partner, hey, HR, we have a sign up that says HR sells, and I say that because I'm that guy. HR becomes such a barrier to success, and we don't want to be a barrier. But we also don't want to spend 9 months going through litigation because you're firing somebody off promotion, not data.
Right.
And so when you hear that over and over, you're in the way. Like, I need to get out of the way. How can I get out of the way?
How can I make that happen?
Yep.
Got it.
And take as much off the frontline leadership. Make the frontline jobs as easy as possible. You'll make more money.
Yeah. So tell us about, I mean, again, you worked at Caterpillar, Masterlock, Johns Manville. How did you get into this industry out of school? I mean,
so I'm an elementary ed major. I was kidding. You didn't know that.
I did not know that.
This is deep. So
just so everybody knows, I've known Mike for months at this point.
Yeah.
And I had no idea elementary ed was his major. So continue.
So I'm into my junior year, getting ready to student teach. I did student teaching. I love teaching.
Yeah.
And I'm going, this is cool, but I want to make some money.
Yeah.
And I'm in a union shop, union teachers, and I noticed that the lady that gives out coloring books is paid more or the same as the one who's committed all in. And I'm like, I can't be in that world.
Sure.
That socialism world. I want to get rewarded for merit. And so I end up getting a business minor.
Okay.
And in the meantime, my dad's a farmer. and he says, "Hey, go do some acres for me." And my brother and I started working when we were, because this was recorded when we were of legal age, and so we've been working in cornfields and soybean fields for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, we ended up running our crew. I started with 5 kids, 5 buddies.
Wow.
And he said, "I'll pay you by the acre, not the hour." And then my brother and I think the most we had was 85 people working for us. And we had a bus. I paid to get people CDLs. They were older, 16, 17 years old running this business.
Wow.
And when we broke down that business, I started at the beginning of the field. You could have on one end, we have these high school kids. On the other end, I have migrant workers that do this for a living.
Wow.
And so this field boss says, "Hey, this is the block you have, but we both know if we go faster than them, I get to start taking some of their field, which is more acres." So I start industrial engineering without knowing it. And my claim to fame is I limited water breaks. At first, I moved the water bottles along with them. I'm like, this helped us. But I bought hydro packs for all my workers.
Yeah.
And so when you cut out breaks,
Absolutely.
because for all the extra water, they have the water with them.
Yeah.
We started doing more acres than the migrants. I actually had to fire my dad's company because I got paid more an acre by Monsanto. So I said, "Can you match and negotiate?" So I was taught business at a young age.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship. So that was, my brother and I made a lot of money for high school kids. And
that's awesome.
We ran that business that got me to a business minor. I looked and I said, what was I doing in that job that I liked? And I created onboarding packets without even understanding what onboarding packets were. I created training without that.
All
I
right.
created a retention program that gave out big bonuses for kids to come back.
Yeah.
And that's all HR.
That's awesome.
And not knowing that, then I randomly ran into, I grew up in Central Illinois, University, 3rd generation Illini. My dad, my grandpa was the captain of the hockey team. And
Wow.
my dad walked on the football team, and then he married somebody short. So, so I ended up wanting to go to Illinois. That program has an enormous placement rate. It's like 95% placement with big companies, BP, GE, which John's Manville. I chose John Manville because it was in Denver, Colorado. It was a sophisticated decision tree there.
Yeah.
From there, John's Manville said, "Hey, where do you want to work?" I said, "Anywhere but California." They sent me to Winder, Georgia. And I met a nice lady, Melinda, and Karen, my first plant manager, and they showed me the ropes.
It's awesome.
Union plant. The time the downturn hit, and I got into being a business partner, not a paper pusher.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was, of all those companies that you worked for, how was the culture different from company to company?
Yeah, so I joke, like, when I talk to the customers, it's not only company to company, it's site to site. It can be department to department. You can be on one end of the building and have a completely different culture and experience, and go to the other end and have another culture.
Sure.
And so at John's Manville, we had Karen set the tone as a plant manager, and she had a great culture, feedback, open, transparent. That was the school of hard knocks for me, being the young. I came in at 24. I was the youngest person in the plant as the HR leader.
Wow.
23, 24. And I realized, and I moved from the north, so I was a Yankee. Got tons of stories about being the Yankee and saying a hundred things.
Yeah.
But the culture to culture just changed. It has so much to do with leadership and that frontline leaders. And after John Manville had several sites. I did labor relations, dropped around, negotiated contracts, as well as did the positive employee relations. And what I found is the frontline leaders are the key to company.
Yeah.
Everything. Now, the plant manager, you can have horrible plant manager, and they shield the employees and the culture from those frontline employees, from that plant manager. You still have a great producing plant.
Sure.
But you walk into a plant with four frontline leaders, that plant manager that comes in, he can't be successful. Going from Jones Man to the Caterpillar startup, we were Barack Obama and I talked about Caterpillar moving reshoring jobs to the United States. And he didn't have anything to do with it, but he talked about it as a president. Or at least that I didn't see. I was also recognized that everyone is not in 1800 jobs. And it changed the community. We had a culture of just feeling this deep sense of making a difference.
That's awesome.
And then going to Fairlife, they were in startup getting bought by Coke. They were moving from startup mode to being like Coca-Cola. Great leaders, frontline crew that you could just high five every day. And then the last role was Master Law, and same type of long company's been around a long time.
Right.
A lot of you can't find a manufacturing plant for me, and you're probably this way too. When you find a manufacturing plant where you don't see the difference in making people's lives.
Yeah.
And I was just talking here at this trade show with a guy, and it's a similar to a welder, and they're young dudes. And I said, my buddy Matt and I, we're a cat. He and I are standing on the mezzanine, and we're working just ridiculous hours at this time. $500 million facility, something along those lines. That he and I are sitting there, and I'm like, Matt, can you believe we do this job? And he says, Mike, you don't understand. As a welder, I thought that was the best job I was ever going to have. Now I'm in charge of this one. He's like, I'm just so grateful.
Wow.
I was working in a cornfield 10 years ago. I thought I was going to be a teacher.
Right.
And now I'm leading the HR for 1,800 people. And I just don't see in other industries the opportunity to come in as a welder, to be a facility leader in a matter of 10 to 15 years. And I see it as almost a factory on it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So how did you decide to make the jump into starting Secchi? So
I back to HR driving me nuts. So I drove myself so nuts.
Okay.
By training, and I created spreadsheets, I created access databases, I created what other tools did we use? I did all sorts of tools that just wouldn't work. It didn't encompass the full needs of a frontline leader to make a difference and empower them to do their job. And so I'm running. The start of it was to fire people. That's where I started. It's this idea of somebody comes to my office, HR, hey Mike, frontline leader, hey Mike, this person's horrible, I want to fire him. And I'm scratching my head. My internal dialogue is, 2 weeks ago you told me they were awesome. So, okay, all right, Jim, you want to fire somebody, that's fine. How's your documentation?
Right.
And they go, Mike, come on, everybody knows Jim. Everybody knows, Timmy's a horrible employee.
Right.
And I go, yeah, we all know it, but when we get in front of legal and you and I are testifying, everybody knowing it isn't going to cut it.
Yeah. That's anecdotal at that point.
Yeah. So I've had 10,000 of those conversations. And I go, how can I change that? How can I stop doing the same damn thing wrong?
Yeah.
Over and over. I've already trained you.
Right.
The training isn't the problem, it's the process.
Yep.
So I started just calling all my HR buddies. Hey, do you have this problem? Yes, I do. It's horrible. Hey, do you have this problem? Yes, I do. It's horrible. So over and over and over again, I called my network. They all said, yes, it's a problem.
Okay.
And then as a director, it's one of those things where I had to quit.
Yeah.
In order to start. So I got enough input from people saying there's a market need, and I quit. And went through a bunch of programs to help me get there. And with October, it's been a year this month.
Okay.
October 2nd, we started our beta.
Wow.
We got out of beta in February.
Okay.
And my theory proved out. My theory proved out. People ask me, how'd you do it? And I said, all I'm risking here is my house, my career, and my family and friends because they helped me do my first race. So that's all I'm risking.
Yeah.
And I knew it was
Minor
happen,
details.
but I didn't know how big I didn't understand how financially impactful it would be for businesses.
Right.
I mean, I did.
Yeah. Awesome. So do you think that some of those admin tasks, the things that you've talked about on the HR side that you dislike, right?
Right.
Are those a barrier to a healthy company culture?
Yes. So think about this. Like, I'm a believer everything's incentivized. You know, I think it's a Warren Buffett quote about incentive. You show me the incentive, I'll show you the results. Somebody has a quote. And the incentive for a supervisor to address a bad employee is so low. Because put yourself in a frontline role, and many of your listeners have been a frontline leader before or are one, and you go, I got this bad employee. Hopefully they just quit or they're going out for attendance.
Yeah.
But to address it, I got to go to a blank screen.
Yeah.
And then I got to write a write-up. And then I got to take it to my manager. I got to take it to HR. I got to get everybody on board. They all got to agree with me. By the time this all happens, we're 2 weeks in.
Yep.
And then it's too late to give them the write-up. And then when I give them the write-up, they're mad at me.
Right.
And so I just put myself in their shoes, and I've had a 10,000 conversation.
Yeah.
How do I make this easier? How do I get rid of the paperwork?
Yeah.
So if we can make the frontline leaders editors, not creators, they'll do it all day long. People want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I compare it to like Napster and Apple Music, right?
Yeah.
You know, you and I were of the age of when Napster came out, we were like, this is sweet. And eventually, Apple bet people will pay for a good experience.
Yeah.
And they want to do the right thing. They don't want to feel like they're stealing music.
Yep.
So people did the right thing. It's like that with a supervisor. If you make it easy enough to do coaching before they write up. How many times have you seen this in your culture guy?
Yeah.
This is culture. We need to hold people accountable. And so what does that mean? Next person without safety glasses, I'm writing them up no matter what.
Right.
So inevitably, when you have that conversation, the next person to screw up with safety glasses is your absolute best 30-year employee.
Or the manager themselves. It's always somebody that you aren't writing up, regardless.
I'm not going to write. And then you come out with this kid, we're going to hold people accountable. Right. And that means we're going to write people up. Right. That's not accountability. Right. I'll tell you why it's not in a second. So we have this, I've had that conversation, 30-year guy walks out. I break, just make a mistake. And I have a supervisor on my name. And he writes him up and he goes, we said we were going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, but he has a file with no write-ups in 30 years. You just disengage your absolute best employee.
What an idiot.
Yes. So we're walking back. I don't reject it. I just go, hey, go to him, rip it up in front of him, and feel good about it. Yeah. Just ask him not to do it again. So the real way this happens is we write notes and we go, hey, Bob, safe glasses.
Right.
First time you don't even really care. Right. Second time you go, Bob, safety glasses. This is the second time. But in our world, we're keeping track of notes.
Right.
And this is a problem.
If at all.
If at all, right? And then you get to the point where you just get so resentful and frustrated that when you go to do the write-up, the guy goes, well, you didn't do that to so-and-so.
Right.
And what we do is we create visibility to that issue.
Okay.
Write down, okay, first time, it's just like, hey, it's the point.
Yeah.
You catch them when they're a step out of the break room.
Right.
They're in their station, different conversation. But now I'm going to hold you accountable, not in the sense of holding you accountable, write you up, but accountability is a responsibility in the right place. So you're putting the responsibility in the right place. I joke, too, it's like, my wife holds me accountable, but she doesn't have a write-up. I know what accountability looks like. I know when I disappoint somebody, and I know it's my responsibility.
Yeah.
So in our system, you do a little coaching, take a little note. It's there. It's easy to see. And you coach a couple times, and then you get into the paper.
Okay.
And then, so.
I like that. So we talked about the different industries and how they varied, and you said that they could vary from really end of building to the other end, right? How different were they from industry to industry? Because you were in heavy equipment all the way to food, and
Yes.
there's a lot of different personas in those different kinds of industries. How variable was the culture from industry to industry?
Yeah, I immediately and you when we had our first talk and we just introducing each other.
Yeah.
We talked about knowing and feeling the culture when you first walk in, right?
Yep.
Like we've been in enough factories. I've been responsible for 60 plus, I think, in HR.
Yeah.
And you just get a feeling when you walk in because you look at it. That feeling, in my opinion, is not from like just pure feeling. It's because we've been in enough places. We're taking subconsciously in.
Yeah.
How's the communication? Do people say hi to me?
Right.
Do I see two people interacting? How are they interacting? How many people are standing around leaning on a machine?
Yeah.
How many people are hustling? How many people are sweating? Are they eating at their simple things like eating at their
Right.
station is always the red flag for me.
Yeah.
So we're taking that in and we make a judgment
Yep.
based off of feeling. So our company's called Secchi. So Secchi, this guy Angelo Secchi, he created a way to measure the clarity of water. And you go,
Okay.
how do you do that? Well, the Secchi disc, he drops a disc in the water when you can't see it anymore. You have a line connected to that disc. Now I have a measurement from how deep I can't see.
Sure.
So there's a measurement there. And that's where Secchi creates a measurement of the workforce.
Got it.
And so the difference is for me is like, I immediately go to communication.
Yeah.
Start talking to the supervisors. What's their, hey, who's your best person? Why are they your best person?
Yeah.
And if you can get a feel for that supervisor, when I talk to another good measurement is the hourly workforce. So the production work, as my old boss Joe used to say, I never worked a day in my life. Like the people that do the work, better appreciate those people. So
Yeah.
when you go up to somebody on the line and you go, hey, how are things going today? And they're like, it's a bad day. You know, okay, cool. What's bad about it? And they tell you in detail, and they have a reason that it's a bad day.
Yeah.
And they care.
Yeah.
I immediately know you're in a good culture.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a bad day because every day is a bad day, and Eeyore's over here, like that's might be a people problem.
Right.
But it's you go down the line, you get positive, and you get people that understand the business.
Yeah.
That's another thing that sticks out from a cultural standpoint.
I like it.
And you asked me, well, I probably didn't answer the different industry to industry.
Yeah.
I will tell you, in the food industry, they have so much more automation than we do in heavy machinery.
Sure.
And less assembly, which is really, really cool.
Okay.
But then you have the culture of their top end operators. It's like they're techs, man. They're engineers. A lot of them don't have engineer degrees or engineer titles, but they're some high end folks.
Yeah.
Say you go to the welders. I joke that every welder I ever interviewed, I hired 350 of them, and every welder I ever interviewed was the best welder they ever invented. and they're like art. They're artists. So
Yeah.
you get
Oh,
this
absolutely.
creative, like intense competitive culture in fabrications, which I love that group. They're always taunting me, and
Yeah.
we used to have a coupon test. So they'd bring in the coupon. That Matt would bring in the coupon and throw it on my desk and say, "You're in HR, but you know this is bad well, right? Who are you recruiting?" You know. So he would challenge me all the time, and
That's awesome.
generally speaking, though, you go to that front line and we talk to the supervisors. That's where the culture is defined.
Yeah.
The messaging and the reinforcement needs to come from leadership, and it's top down. And then, do people care about people?
Yeah. Absolutely. Right on. Just trying to think here. Let's talk about turnover and reduction in turnover.
Oh yeah.
How can a company accomplish that more strategically, right? Because that's a big buzz term out there right
Oh, yeah.
now with a lot of people talking about hey, we need to reduce our turnover, but nobody really knows how
There's
to
a
do
labor
that.
shortage. I can't find people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, this is how it goes. And I probably shouldn't name companies, but I've done this every company I've ever worked for. Is we sit around and go, the ops manager one day gets real frustrated. They get boiled over because you have too many call offs or random quits in a week. And you're not projecting it out, so it's a surprise. Variability is enemy to all of us that are on this call. So then we have to have an emergency meeting. And they say, we need to fix turnover. One, everybody assumes it's pay, including me.
Right.
So that's step one. We blame pay. Then, but it's 6 months, a year to get pay change. And if you're in a small business, smaller businesses don't want to do it. The big businesses, they make it so hard you don't want to do it as a team. So, okay, we get done with that. The reality is most of us pay. As long as you're not totally out of whack, you're going to be okay. Then we go through the checklist of all the operations managers who are data-driven people. Everybody yells out their gut feeling of what we should do. So we need a retaining program. We need a retention program that does mentorship. We need one that does I've done all the levers. You got mentorship, you got pay, you got onboarding, training. We blame all these things and we try to redo it. Try to make them better than they are. Meanwhile, in HR, we're always working on these things going, yeah, guys.
Got it.
We got it. So stay interviews are big. Oh, the other one, exit interviews. Exit interviews are as good as the toilet paper in that bath.
Right.
Exit interviews to me, unless there's a caveat there. Exit interviews by the people that you're mad at because you quit are garbage.
Right.
I know that if you have a third party and you have them with some type of trust, they work.
Yeah.
But in my experience, they're already mad at me as the HR director.
Absolutely.
Like they're quitting for a reason that I really don't know. And my exit interview with Caterpillar, I could say that I had no issues. Overall, it was a better opportunity, but really, I couldn't even explain it because it's all little things. So what I would tell you there is the stay interview process. I'm a big fan of when you're still working. And fix things. I'm a big fan of
if they're done correctly.
If done correctly.
I mean, they can just be performative though too. I mean, we've seen that. I'm sure you've seen. You've seen those performative stay interviews where nothing really happens. It's literally just an exercise that some middle manager was told to do, and he or she does it, and then it's done, and they can move on to the next task that they were given. Right?
We worked with a guy, my friend who, Chris Yoder, who I've worked with Secchi. He worked really hard on the stay interviews, and you got to have action out of them. And gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now. Worked with a stay interview. Dick Finnegan. Dick Finnegan did an excellent job on that. I'm a fan of those when done right. These are all big efforts. And so, really, when it comes down to the turnover and have a thesis, if you're a PhD in HR organization development, write this out, write this down. Good. Back to the good people can't stand bad folks. I can't stand working next to people that don't work. So I'm in HR. Why is that any different? When we're on the line. And so. The worst enemy in turnover is your worst employee who's bringing everybody down.
Absolutely.
And like this kind of throwing in some stories of people that I've lost. Is maintenance. Maintenance has always been hard. It's harder than ever now. And you hire on folks and you hear from your maintenance crew, this guy can't do the job. This guy can't do the job. This guy can't do the job. If you're not making some action, either up or out, you're going to lose your best mechanic. This factory I had, we heard this, and then we lose our best mechanic. When you lose a best mechanic,
that's tough.
You are in so much trouble. So, that running around the table with the HR, with the ops folks, and they come up with ideas, and they're not using data. That's a problem.
So how do you overcome being in manufacturing, right? It's a traditional industry. How do you overcome that resistance to using data to develop strategic and strategies?
So the first thing that we have as a challenge is we're another program, right? Oh my gosh, another program. And then I'm having these conversations every day. Why do I have to write them down?
Yeah.
So I hear that a lot. And we already have an HRIS program. That HRIS program you have is built for compliance to keep the government from suing you.
Right.
That's what that's built for.
Right.
It's not built for your frontline leader.
Yep.
And then that other program is everything has a program in place. So that piece of paper that saved on a shared drive 10 folders down, that's a system. That's a program.
Yeah.
That your supervisors never use, or the pieces of paper that they handwrite. That's a program. So we automate that. And if you can put it on your phone, like we have, if you can reinforce positive behaviors, it just makes things easier. So, give me an example. As an executive in the data transparency, I built the program to fire people. We ended up recognizing them. So this factory I work with, they have this guy. I have all these warnings, I have templates, but what the supervisors like is there's a text message aspect.
Okay.
And so when you get home, when their employees they can show it to their family. And we have a customer that they send out a happy birthday message to this guy saying, thank you, happy birthday, but not just happy birthday, thanks for being part of the team.
Yeah.
It translates to Spanish.
Oh, that's awesome.
The guy speaks English, but he's English second language.
Right.
So the manager is a smart manager. He plans for this to hit him up at home.
Oh, wow.
So he gets his text message on his birthday while he's driving home. He gets to share that message to his family.
That's cool.
In Spanish. A big long message.
Right.
So he comes into work next day and says, pumped up. So now that guy will forever be loyal to that manager.
Right.
And so one guy or gal at a time, the next one, the next one. And you get rid of those two or three that are bugging you, and everybody listening has those two or three in their head.
Absolutely.
Because what's great about manufacturing is you got those two or three. As soon as they go, somebody else wants to work their self right back into that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think I've done all the programs. I've done, all the systems, the state interviews, all the programs in here. That's what you do too.
Right.
It's a lot of effort, and there's not a perfect answer. You have to analyze your own facility.
Right.
Every facility is different. Analyze the weaknesses of the team. What's bugging them?
Yeah.
So
how sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm talking too much. I had a unionization attempt.
Okay.
And so this is when you want to change. When you want to change a culture fast.
Yeah.
That's a unionization attempt.
Yeah.
And at that union, it was early in the job. I didn't have the relationships which I typically build. And the very first thing you do is just listen.
Yeah.
Listen. And I sat third shift, first, second, third shift. I basically said, "What's up?" Like I asked, "What's up?" And there was a trend in the names of the people that were "What's up."
Yep.
And in those unionization trips, a lot of it has to do with leadership.
Yep.
So even if the guys were good, like relatively good people, I honestly thought they were very skilled and good people, but they had lost their leadership title in the eyes of the employees. So
got it.
You hear that, and then you hear about policies that just don't make any damn sense.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, well, why do we have this policy? It's the way it's, you hear it from different shifts, different departments. I'm taking notes and go, that's something I have to fix today.
Yeah.
So we fix that. I then have to go through the proper channels to fix the policy. So, and then you hear about just things that are wrong in the facility.
Sure.
And I did another shameless plug. I'm not getting paid for this, but I really buy into the approachable leadership model by Labor Relations Institute of just asking people,
okay,
what can I do to make it work there's a lot to it, but the question that sticks out is what can I do to make work better?
Yeah.
So I sat down with those people, what's up? What can I do to make work better?
Yeah. I like it.
You start making those little things.
Yeah.
I feel like I know I've changed a lot of facilities.
Yeah.
Sitting down and listening, doing those, changing the procedures, make a big difference.
It's awesome. How does Secchi help affect a positive employee engagement strategy?
So as you lay out the strategy, I'm a big fan of planning and not surprising people.
Yeah.
So with Secchi, the way that you get ahead of these issues is at the end of the year, you're never going to surprise anyone.
Yeah.
Because it's data driven.
Okay.
So if I take a little note, you and I have a coaching conversation, I have a check-in. Just all I'm asking is not take your note in your notebook that no one else can see. Just put on Secchi.
Yeah.
It's 2 seconds on your phone.
I like it.
And check in we have a system that keeps the frontline leaders accountable. So we measure engagement based off how many people on their team they've connected with in the last 30 days.
Oh, cool.
So I believe in surveys. I like surveys for engagement scores.
Yeah.
It's a good way to measure what's going on, but it only happens a couple times a year.
Yeah.
You need that data, but we're measuring engagement based off the leadership activities.
Okay.
Are they connecting with everyone? Because first time I sent text messages out, said, thank you for perfect attendance in September. This guy comes off the floor on break and he goes, you guys know I haven't missed a day in 5 months. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate this.
That's cool.
Yeah, because he's a guy, and I'm like, I told the supervisor, I'm like, he hasn't missed a day in 5 months. We should pick him up and carry him to his car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hourly performance management's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Conceptual.
Right.
Did you show up on time? Did you do something great? Did you do something wrong?
Right.
And conceptually, that's easy.
Right.
And hourly, the discipline side is easy. 3 strikes and you're out. 1, 2, 3, boom. It's the same. It's almost the same everywhere, except for China. It's almost the same. And why does it have to be hard for a leader to do that?
Right. Right.
So.
So, what role? I mean, you use AI as part of Secchi, right?
Yeah.
How do you see AI taking a larger role in manufacturing, and how can it impact the culture of the industry?
Right. So the data is the oil of today, right? Like we have a unique data set.
Yeah.
If you're coaching and recognizing people, right now our AI is in development and will be in beta fairly soon. The ability to do the administrative tasks is and we all know those administrative tasks of just sitting and looking at data sets, right? Like even before this podcast, I'm going into AI and I'm asking, hey, what do you think about doing an interview on a podcast? And it gives me the pros and cons. Don't mess up. Don't say something stupid. That is going to be so helpful. And so AI is the machine learning aspect of it.
Yes.
Machine learning for us in the HR world, there's so much administrative work that smaller companies just pay somebody to do.
Yeah.
That they can switch them from pushing paper to, the social media. I can put out social media posts. My HR coordinator now can do attendance write-ups. My HR coordinator, not a $130,000 senior HR manager, right? So I see a way to efficiency really fast, and even for the front, I really focused on that front line.
Yeah,
the front line's ability to ask questions, and of which they don't ask because extra work comes of it.
Yeah.
Hey, what if we did this? Do you think there's a company that could? The incentive, do you think there's a company that could do X, Y, and Z? So you see a frontline leader that they're seeing a problem every day on this machine.
Yep.
Right? To be able to get direction on how to fix that machine is going to be immensely impactful. And I think it means jobs for the U.S. really. A lot of that outsourced work is the less skilled.
Yeah.
And if we get AI to do it, it's going to make us better.
Yeah. I get it. Actually, I guess I interviewed at WIMTS. We talked about AI, and his take is AI will probably take more administrative jobs than floor jobs.
Yes.
Just because of the nature of the industry. What do you think of that concept?
I think the labor market and what we've done as a society in the U.S. with shop classes.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep needing those jobs, and it's gonna be just we're in a factory full of automation, right? All that automation replaced picking up a widget and moving it.
Right.
But there's gonna be 3 or 4 guys that have to figure out how to program it.
Sure.
And the tech, so that second level tech is gonna be an awesome industry to get into.
Yeah.
You work a lot with you're promoting a lot of high school stuff.
Yeah.
And at this plant startup in Georgia with Caterpillar, we worked with the schools a bunch. The Georgia model of career academies.
Yeah.
So they're saying, hey, you don't want to travel around. You want to get paid well. Learn be a tech. And so they've got mechatronics in high school, welding in high school.
That's awesome.
All those cool things that are going to open up paychecks. I think it's going to be a net benefit for our country, manufacturing in general.
Yeah.
That take away that work, and I know people are scared of losing jobs. That's just scary. I'm in HR. Shoot, it's I just told you, there's a lot of administrative. The thing about it is, the work isn't going to go away. People still need things. We're just going to be better at it, and we're going to figure out new skills to use it. In my opinion.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Mike, what are 3 things that you implemented in your past that affected the culture in your facilities, or what are 3 things that shop owners, facility leaders can implement to change their culture?
Yeah. So, can I switch it and say I'm going to say this is culture impactful, but it's the thing I'm most proud of.
Sure.
So, I'm in Athens, Georgia. We're having we're meeting with schools. We're trying to recruit. It's only 110,000 people in the town at the time, and we got to recruit 14. We thought it was going to take 1,400. We got as big as 1,800, right?
Okay.
So that's like 1% of the town. Like, how the heck are we going to recruit these folks? So I'm out. I'm doing PR, trying to recruit everybody and anybody that wants to put their hands on the machine. And we met with the school system, and we created alongside the superintendent, Phil Lamont, Phil Lanoux, sorry. We created a system where at-risk kids came into our facility.
Okay.
And those at-risk kids got jobs for $10 an hour.
Yep.
Which these folks, they're third generation, no work. Like there's people that they don't even know what a paycheck is, right? And what that did for the culture, one is we're changing the community.
Yeah.
We're changing the place around us. We're making a bigger impact than ourselves. Just to see the kid that bought his parents a minivan after working for 2 months, like I'm
awesome.
Almost in tears talking about. Like this is generational change.
Yeah.
Like, to show that to people. And we ended up. I used to call and check in to see how many had gone through the program. We started with 5. But what it did to the culture is those 5 at-risk kids. You have people on the line that sometimes their job doesn't seem meaningful because we're making equipment that moves earth, right? But it was really meaningful in the way that the people on the line adopted these, work adopted these kids.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden their job means more because I'm helping this kid that has made a bunch of not great choices.
Yep. And
now he's making great choices.
That's awesome.
And one of the kids ended up going to Georgia Tech from it.
Wow.
And there's like success stories after success story.
That's cool.
That's my number one. And that changes the culture.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I really buy into this. Is we need to change our culture, so we're going to have a birthday parties. It's like, dude, come on, man.
Pizza parties.
It's relationships. So I have a little trick here, and the trick is when we interact at work, we only see 50% of something. Let's say
Sure.
8 hours, maybe 50%, maybe a little more. I'm not me at work. Like, I'm as much as HR me as I can be, but I'm not me.
Right.
And because anyone that I went to college with knows that all my buddies, they're like, you're an HR. And like, so I'm not truly me, but if you create those environments, I think this is a huge culture builder. Volunteer projects together.
Sure.
So you're doing work, you're making a difference. And I get to, and we bring family.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the people that hate me because of something I communicated incorrectly that I don't even know about.
Right.
Like, oh, they see me, I'm a dad.
Yeah.
Wait, how's that guy have kids? He's a dad. You know, and they see me as a dad, they see me as a husband,
Right.
they see me as a volunteer. And now all of a sudden, that paradigm shifts.
Yeah.
So that was another one. I'll end with the last, like, kind of, like, the real hammer is you get the right values and mission and people that believe in it.
Yeah.
That's starting point, and then people who care.
Yeah.
You know, no company has this as a competency, but we call it the cool and careness competency. Are they pretty cool to talk to? Like,
Yeah.
Do we have a conversation? And do they care? Are they going to be upset that they're late? Are they going to be upset they're late because they let you down?
Right.
And if they're not upset that they're late, excuse, but they let you down. They don't want to let people down because they care about those around them.
Yeah.
That is the competency I care about the most.
I like it. I like it. What didn't I ask you, Mike, that you want to share?
I didn't get it. Did I? I guess the last thing is I love manufacturing. I love operations.
Yeah.
And the reason we're talking, we had this introduction conversation, this bond over, we're creating something in manufacturing. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand why we get the bad rap.
Yeah.
What other job can you walk in entry level and be the boss? And
right.
there's not the plant managers that I've worked with, the ops managers I've worked with, I can't tell you how many of them have came from nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. They have this story of just perseverance, just pure, climbing the mountain to be a plant manager, to be an ops manager.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you a story that they got D's. they got D's in high school. And I shouldn't say the company, but one of my good friends, he was like barely got through high school. He runs, I want to say it was over $1 billion business. And if people knew that, because work matters. And if we focus on the work as our meaning, if we focus on the work, not our differences, it makes a huge impact on the world.
I love it, man. Thank you very much for being on, Mike. I appreciate it. Thank you. What an incredible journey we've taken today, folks. We've dove into the world of data-driven HR, cultural transformations, and so much more with the one and only Mike White. From understanding the evolution of company culture to unlocking the secrets of reducing turnover and increasing productivity, this episode was a goldmine of insights. Trust me, your company's culture will thank you for tuning in today. Before we sign off, a massive thank you to our fabulous sponsor, Spironi. Without their support, conversations like this wouldn't be possible, especially not in a remote location. So if you're looking for top-notch tool measurement management solutions, you know where to go. Don't forget to visit us at manufacturingculturepodcast.com to catch up on past episodes and see what else we have up our sleeves. We've got some new stuff coming. We've got the video now. We've got the blog up. We've got T-shirts. We've got gear. There's a banner behind Mike, for crying out loud. This is wild stuff, man. Never had thought that this was going to happen this way. We've got some game-changing guests lined up. Coming up in the future, we're going to go to manufacturing facilities. We're going to provide you guys with tours of shops, interviews with employees on the shop floor, in addition to the regular interviews that we've been doing. So you'll be able to find us on YouTube, on our website. We're going to be everywhere. So make sure you stay connected. Keep watching LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram for updates. And if you loved today's episode as much as I did, do me a favor. Share it with your friends, colleagues, and anybody you know who's passionate about making the manufacturing industry an even better place to work. Don't forget to rate and review the show. Your feedback fuels my fire and keeps me bringing more of the content that you love. Until next time, keep championing that culture. Let's keep the conversation going because the future of manufacturing is bright and it starts with you. Have a great day, everybody, and keep making things. Thank you.